When we come out with energy like that, we know that it's really hard for our opponents to mess with us.
The Jaguars are rolling right now. Welcome into Teal, the show. It is Victory Monday after a big win. I'm Jamal St. Cyr alongside Frank Frangie. Frank, it's Victory Monday, and a lot of people are excited. The Jaguars are on a nice little winning streak here, but people are also a little bit concerned right now, and maybe for good reason.
It's Victory Monday. It's Nervous Monday because everybody wants to know about Trevor Lawrence. Look, the bottom line is we don't know. I'm not sure they know the extent of his injury. My guess is he's going to be okay, but look, I said this on the morning show. I'm not a doctor. We're not doctors. But he did walk across the field after the game and shake hands with Gardner and the Colts. But he did do his press conference. I think he is going to work some. I think Doug said today he's going to get some of the reps. They may split reps. I think it's probably a pain tolerance thing. I do get the sense that they've avoided a big scare. Whether he plays Thursday night or not, we'll find out. But I think they avoided the big scare with Trevor Lawrence. I think that seems to be the general consensus, Jamal.
Yeah, it seems that way. And we hate to speculate on injuries because, like you said, we're not doctors. Here's the one question, though, I do have for you, Frank, before we get into more of the positives from that game.
Sure.
Short week, Trevor Lawrence banged up. Let's say it's minor. Do you play him on a short week even if he's a little bit less than 100%?
I think if he's ready to play, he plays. I think if Trevor Lawrence can play in that football game, you play him. If you risk re-injury, then you don't play him. And I think that's what the doctors have to tell Doug is, are you risking a more severe injury? If that's the case, then you don't play him. But if it's just a pain tolerance thing, if you got to brace him up a little bit, if he can't be full strength but can still play, I think you play him. I don't think, to your question, because it's a good question, do you hold him out just because you got a long season ahead? Unless there's in my opinion, unless there's a possibility of re-injuring it or injuring it worse, I think he plays.
I know there's a lot of nervous Jaguars fans getting ready to make the trip to New Orleans this week about whether or not they'll see C.J. Beathard out there making the start. We'll keep an eye on that all week long. But let's talk about more of the positives from this Colts game. This was a big win for the Jaguars. Defense is rolling, and they're doing it in a big way. The offense kind of finally started to get it going. Travis Etienne starting to take that next step. Doug Peterson says he thinks Travis is turning into the elite running back that he expected him to be.
He's really been impressive. You know, there's a lot of, I would say there's still some things he can improve upon, you know, but he's really taken a nice step this year, understanding the run schemes, understanding, you know, some of the fits and some of the holes. Missed a few things yesterday. We'll get that fixed, but has definitely taken that step. You know, he's a tough, young, physical running back that, you know, we put him in a lot of different positions because he can handle it.
It sure was a frenzy early in the game. The Jaguars have scored 14 points in 16 seconds. That's almost a point a second. 2 touchdowns from Travis Etienne. I mean, he's been phenomenal for this team, Frank.
He's a really good player. Remember, he's first-round draft pick. He's supposed to be a really good player. But Travis Etienne is a really good player and a really important part of this offense. He's faster than most of the running backs in the league. There's a lot of running backs that are physical, that get low, that get skinny, that know how to run, but they're not as fast as him. He is the straight-ahead speed is real. He's a really good player. And in that game, Jamal, they looked like a team. These teams that go win 12 games and 13 games, even 14 games, they have a look to them. They hit the gear when they have to, they get a lead, and then they hold on and win the game. That's what the good teams do. I said this before to you. We weren't wrong about the Jags. We said they were a good team. They started 1-2, and everybody started thinking, well, or maybe are they not a good team? They're a very good football team, and they looked like it on Sunday for sure.
Offense is finally starting to get on track to where they should be, but the defense has been rolling and continues to roll. Right now, they lead the league in turnovers. That's this team's, like, go-to. Big moment, defense forces a turnover. It's just time after time it seems to keep happening. I think we expected the offense to be good. I don't think many people expected the defense to be quite as good as they've been. I kind of said it tongue-in-cheek early in the year that the Jaguars are a defensive football team, but if the defense keeps forcing turnovers like this, it's hard to not kind of embrace that a little bit.
Well, here's what's happened. I agree with you. No one thought the defense would play like this. 2 or 3 things have happened in that defense. Number one, you had to find the elite pass rusher. Josh Allen, all that stuff he did in the offseason, going to Phoenix, getting in the best shape of his life, he is having an unreal year. 7 sacks, and he got cheated out of one in England against Buffalo, so he should have 8. He's got 7 sacks. He's playing at a great level. But he's not the only one. They're developing some Pro Bowl level players. Andre Sisco needs to go to the Pro Bowl. He's one of the better safeties in the league. Rayshon Jenkins is playing at a good level. Darius Williams has 3 interceptions. Roy Robertson-Harris picked up where he did last year, where he's physical and really impacting the line of scrimmage. Foye Oluokun might be the best tackler in the league. I just named 5 guys now. That's 5 guys who, they're not all going to the Pro Bowl, but they're all going to get Pro Bowl votes. That's 5 guys on defense that are going to get votes for the Pro Bowl. We haven't had that in a long time. The story of this season is how that defense is playing. I agree with you.
All right, the Jaguars are now in first place, sole possession of it in the AFC South. Frank, as you kind of look around the AFC South, I think, at least me, my tend to start pointing at the Texans as maybe the biggest competition for the Jags the rest of the way. Is there a team in the running for the division that you're at least a little bit concerned about?
It's an interesting division because everybody else is young. The Titans aren't young, but they're struggling. They're going to have to get young because playing the veterans isn't working. The other two teams are young. Richardson out for a while, and Minshew's playing for them. The Texans right now look like the other good team in the division. They're going to be good in years to come because Will Anderson's going to be good, and it certainly looks like C.J. Stroud's going to be good. They're the surprise. But look, there's ebbs and flows in an NFL season. Don't get too caught up in the standings too early because you're going to win some you're supposed to lose and lose some you're supposed to win. At the end of the year, it's all about volume. But having said that, they do publish the standings, and if they're going to publish them, you'd rather be on top than not. So the Jags off to a good start, 6 games in. Okay, let's put the bow on the Colts game. Frank, your game ball for some player that gets the Teal to show game ball for the big win yesterday. Who is it? There's so many you could pick, aren't there? There's so many guys that made so many big plays in that game. The guy I'm going to pick is because I see it every week with him. I think he changes the way teams play. I think it's Andre Sisco. He's got another interception. He gets his hands on balls. He takes away that deep middle. So he covers so much ground. He's not a guy that gets the attention I think he should. Yes. Give me Andre Sisco, yet another pick, yet another terrific game from number 5. Yeah, Andre Sisco has been playing fantastic. If I had to pick one, I'd stay on that defense. I think that Josh Allen strip sack really, at that moment, once they did that and then the Jaguars were able to capitalize on it right after that, the game kind of felt like it was the Jaguars that were in full control of it. All right, that's the bow on the big win. Since the game is on Thursday, coming up after the break, we'll give you a full preview of what you can expect for Thursday Night Football this week against the New Orleans Saints. That's straight ahead when Teal the Show is. Welcome back into Teal the Show. All right, we have to start talking about the Saints. Now, it's kind of odd for a Victory Monday show where we have to do it this way, but Thursday Night Football, short week for them, short week for us. Right. So the New Orleans Saints are a team that is very defensive-oriented right now. Right. Offense is kind of finding its way. They struggled at times against the Texans on Sunday. Houston actually beat them, but the Superdome is always a tough place to play. You know that better than I do. That's where you're from. Yeah. Jamal knows how tough that place can be, and it is a tough place to play, and they're good defensively. The Saints are a dangerous team now because they're a little bit of a desperate team. They've struggled some. They've struggled offensively. We all know that. We all know the quarterback issues. We know what's going on there. But they're a tough-nosed team defensively. Dennis Allen's a tough-nosed defensive guy. This is a challenge. You've got to find something. Even if Trevor Lawrence plays, you got to find some offense because you don't want to be in one of those 10-7 games headed to the fourth quarter. And that's the game the Saints won. Short week, on the road, tough place to play, different kind of turf. This is a very difficult challenge for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And short weeks provide their own kind of challenges. I mean, Doug Peterson talked about the coaching staff trying to start getting peeks at the New Orleans Saints on Friday of last week, on Saturday of last week, because they knew the short week was coming up. So you have to find that time. Plus, the Jaguars have now kind of gotten bit by that injury bug a little bit. You had Tyson Campbell go down on Sunday. Doug Peterson basically said that he doesn't think Tyson's going to go on Sunday with that hamstring. But you've got Brandon Sheriff, who's day-to-day, Trevor Lawrence day-to-day, Zay Jones day-to-day, Walker Little day-to-day. Those injuries are tough on a short week because there's not a whole lot of time to get that rest for their bodies before the game. That's a big part of it, and who knows how many of those guys are going to play. I agree. He said Tyson Campbell probably not. The others all could play, and they'll let us know when we get closer to it. Again, this is a tough challenge. The Jags are really good at not letting distractions be the thing. They keep the thing, and they're very good at that. But look, they've traveled a lot, man. There was 10 days in London. They came back, had to play a division rival right away, no off date. Now a short week, they've got to travel again. The reason a short week matters when you're on the road because Wednesday's a travel day. Yeah, you can practice before and travel late, but it's still a travel day. It's a different kind of day. There's not as many meetings. There's not as much time. I'm telling you, this is a tough challenge. A lot of guys are down. As for the injuries, I have no idea who's going to play, who's not. But Brandon Sheriff's a hard guy to keep out of there. He wants to play. I think if he would hobble out there and play because he's a tough-nosed guy. So he's going to try and play. But again, tough challenge for the Jags for all the reasons you just talked about. You got that right. Brandon Sheriff's got to be one of the toughest guys in the NFL, hands down. I mean, it takes a lot to keep him off of the football field. He hates being out of the game. He hates standing over there while other guys are playing. It's amazing. He'll put the helmet back on, and they'll say, Brandon, you're good. He wants to get back in that game. All right. So here's the question for it. So if Trevor Lawrence is a little bit less than 100%, maybe he can go. Right. But that Jaguars offensive line has been
iffy at times this year, but it's mostly because the pieces keep shuffling. They've had injuries pop up. They started the year with Ben Barch, who maybe wasn't fully ready to go out there. Then they switched to Tyler Shatley. And then you get Cam Robinson back. You think Walker Little and you've got stability, Walker goes down. And then now you've got Cam back, Shatley goes back into guard. You think you got Brandon Sheriff ready to go, and then Sheriff is now down, or possibly down. Yeah. So with that offensive line, with those shuffling pieces, if you're possibly without 2 starters on that O-line, do you roll Trevor Lawrence out there with those question marks?
Yeah, again, I think you call the game differently. I think you write a different game plan. But I think they trust the guys that are out there. Number one, the 2 tackles are playing really well. Cam Robinson is playing at the level you wanted him to. He's nasty. He's ticked off. He missed all those games. And Anton Harrison had a terrific game the other day. He played maybe his best game against the Colts, against a good defensive front. So your tackles are playing really well. Luke Fortner's still your center. You got to figure out the guard piece. Brandon Sheriff's going to play. He just feels like a guy that's going to play somehow. He's going to tape it up and play. That's my guess. I don't know that. So they're finding a way. I wouldn't hold a quarterback out because you're worried your line isn't as good as it could be. I think the line's played okay. Now, again, you might have more quick games, Jamal. You might want to get the ball out of his hands quicker. You may run the ball more. But again, my guess is if Trevor can play, and we don't know that he can, he'll give it a go. All
right, Monday special, Frank. Here we go. It's time to pick the game. Do you think the Jaguars are going to walk away with a win Thursday Night Football in New Orleans against the Saints?
This has nothing to do with the injury. This is a game I had pegged as an L the whole time. Yeah. Not as much because of what the Jaguars did or didn't do right. It's just a hard, short week on the road, NFC team, road game. You're not going to win them all. You're not winning 14 games or 15 games probably. I think this is a tough one. I got the Saints winning this game.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough game for the Jaguars. Look, we talked about it last week, coming back from London 2 weeks, and then you immediately go into a short week. This is a tough game against a tough Saints team that's going to be upset about the way they lost last week, especially coming off of a big win they had the week before that. I think the Jaguars win. I don't think it's a very lopsided win. I think they'll just barely eke it out. But I think it's going to be one of those dirty games that you said that plays to where the Saints won it, where it's like 10-6 going into the 4th. So it's going to be a dirty one. I just have a feeling about that, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be a big one. If you had one key player that the Jaguars need to have a good day if they're going to pull off the upset for your pick, who would it be?
Not even close, Travis Etienne. I mean, you've got to run the ball. Your quarterback might be hobbling. He may not be. Your offensive line's beat up a little bit. The one thing you've got is you've got a running back that's better than most teams, linebackers and defenders. I think big game. I think you're going to see a lot of carries. I think you're going to see them throw the ball to him. Travis Etienne has been playing very, very well, and I think another big game's coming. Fast track over there in the Superdome. Look for number 1.
Just feed the guy. Keep giving him the ball. All right, Frank, thanks for being here. Thank you at home for tuning in. Good night, everybody, and go Jags.